All right, welcome to The Rock. Listen, it's lucky we've done a lot of these with artists throughout this pandemic, trying to talk about music and what's going on. And the fact is, we're on basically house arrest and nothing's going on. But the good news is, hockey is back, and the NHL back in action. And who better to talk about it with us than the host, the NHL on Sportsnet, and the brilliant 31 Thoughts podcast as well, Jeff Marek. Joining me. Thanks so much for joining me, Jeff.
Lucky, the pleasure is all mine. I love the background. The brick makes it look real rugged and tough. So it's a cool look you got going for The Rock. How you doing,
Listen,
pal?
I can't go outside, so we brought the inside indoors now.
I apologize for the lighting. I have the sun is set, and this is how hi-fi that I get here in my office. If I hold it like this, maybe is that better, sir?
Oh, that's good. That's good
I'll
lighting.
just
That's
hold
okay.
it there like that. It's really low tech here at the Marek
We're
household.
we're barely HD, so don't worry about it in this. Listen, hockey fans, I think
Yep.
have to be really excited that finally we got some NHL hockey back, something to watch as we're sitting at home. And for Leaf fans and certainly Canadian hockey fans, this NHL realignment of the All Canadian North Division, even if you're
Yes.
panicking about it being called the Scotia Division, which it is what it is. Hey, we've got a pretty exciting little season coming up.
It should be a lot of fun. And, it's interesting. Elliot and I on the podcast a couple of weeks ago mused about the idea that if you're looking for a quick infusion of money back into the NHL system, the NHL right now, we all know the losses. We've all read the headlines. We've all familiarized ourselves with the economy of the NHL. If you're looking for an injection of money into the system really quickly, either if you're an owner or a player, I mean, if you're in the business of looking under every cushion for every nickel right now, Lucky, I mean, do you look to maybe extend the Canadian division, not just for one season, but for more? I know that with Seattle coming in with 32 teams, that makes, four nice divisions of 8, and it's nice and simple. I understand all that, but you're right. I mean, it's going to be exciting, I think, for hockey fans. Yeah, the question that I have through all of it, because every day is going to be like a playoff game type atmosphere. I think when all these teams play, my curiosity revolves around the editorial around the game right now, and here's how I'll position it to you. And the answer for me is Vancouver going away. Which Twitter fan base do you think will be the most engaged slash annoying slash loud? Like, there is nothing quite like Canucks Twitter. Now, Oilers Twitter is special in its own regard, as is Leafs Twitter, and I understand all of it. Vancouver really has carved out a very special place in the hockey Twitter sphere. Lucky, which fan base, as I switch host roles here, which
Right.
one do you think in all of this is going to be the most animated? Let's just say.
Well, I mean, being GTA based, I'd have to say the fervor in Toronto. And really, is this the last straw for Toronto hockey fans? You've realigned the world to make things more entertaining,
You
and,
got
and
you got
certainly
them away from Tampa. You got them
you
away from Boston.
you gave them a chance. You don't have those rivalries now. You've realized everything to just pave the way for Toronto. If it doesn't happen now, I don't know if Twitter can handle what Toronto
Yeah.
Maple Leaf fans are going to do.
Well, listen, I mean, the one wonderful thing about the Maple Leafs is you're engaged. You either love them like they do in the GTA, or you hate them, which is the rest of Canada. Even though Maple Leaf fans are pocketed all over this country. Yeah, Toronto's an interesting spot too, because they're not the underdog. They are the biggest market, and they are the biggest team, and they have the biggest expectations of any team in Canada. You look at all the prognosticators, and I've submitted, my prognostications for the season at our website as well. And the lion's share of people are picking the Toronto Maple Leafs to come out of the North Division, the Canadian division, if you will. So pressure is on, excuses are off, jobs are on the line here, positions are on the line, reputations are on the line. Toronto is one of those teams. I mean, this, Lucky, with your hockey background. There are some teams where the regular season is, I don't want to say meaningless, but there's a sense that you just want to get through it to get to the playoffs, because there's no answers for you in the regular season. Like for some teams, some redeveloping teams, some rebuilding teams, there's questions and answers for the regular season. Are the kids getting better? Are these guys working well together? For Toronto, there aren't any questions like that. Toronto only has questions in the playoffs. And can they get through a round? And is that enough? Can they get through two? Can they get to the conference fight? All these questions about the Maple Leafs, none of them exist in the regular season. They all exist in the playoffs, Lucky.
Well, you said enough. So have the Leafs done enough in this offseason to really turn a corner? Because this is a team of real excitement and youth, and then they've just gone and turned it around, bringing in Wayne Simmons and Joe Thornton, who will play on a top line with Matthews and Marner. Not sure any Leafs fan thought that was coming.
And I don't think he'll last there for entire games. Like, I don't like if like, let me put it this way. If Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner are playing, I don't know, 20 minutes a game, do you think that Joe Thornton is going to play? Like, if you, when you look at the notes at the end of the night and you go to time on ice, you think we're going to see a 2-0 beside Joe Thornton? Not a chance. I mean, there'll be other wingers that sort of sub in there 5-on-5. So I don't think anyone thinks that's going to happen, but that's the spot right away. I mean, those are sort of the the signings they made at the fringe. Wayne Simmons is a signing made at the fringe. Zach Bogosian is a signing made at the fringe. I think if the Maple Leafs are going to do anything, it's going to be because their core got better. Their young players have one more year of experience in the NHL. Austin Matthews takes that step. I mean, he's the prohibitive favorite now, probably to win the Rocket Richard. Can someone like Mitch Marner challenge for the Art Ross Trophy? I know that sounds weird when you hear it the first time, but when you consider, Marner and Matthews are playing in one of the weaker divisions, the Canadian division, the North division, they got a real shot at doing some damage here. Can Nylander have another 30, 35 goal season? John Tavares, now healthy, can he bounce back to a 40-goal campaign? Does TJ Brody hold that key to finally unlocking the greatness that we all suspect is in Morgan Rielly? And can Frederik Andersen shake off what was, by his or any other standard, a pretty average year for that netminder as he heads into the season in a contract year? So all the things that Kyle Dubas did by bringing in new players outside of TJ Brody was all sort of done at the fringes. If the Maple Leafs are going to do anything, it's still going to be because of that core.
And certainly, the heart of Leafland, the GTA, yes, they hear the pundits. They say the Leafs are going to finish first in this division. It's paved the way. But you look at this North Division, 6 of the 7 teams made it to the playoff round last year. And, there have been improvements elsewhere, too. Vancouver, they have something to tweet about. They've made some good moves.
They have. And listen, Vancouver's got, excuse me, 2 of the most exciting players, young players in the game right now. In Elias Pettersson, who is a very stealth candidate for the Hart Trophy and was last year, and Quinn Hughes, who many say is one of, if not already, the best defenseman in the entire Canadian division. So I don't know that Vancouver's depth after the top 6 is much to write home about. Their blue line could certainly still use some work too. They bring in Braden Holtby, who hasn't been an elite level netminder going back to the Cup year with the Washington Capitals. Thatcher Demko, who was marvelous in the bubble, spectacular against Vegas. We haven't seen a full stretch and a full run of games over a long time to make any type of decision on Demko at this point. So as much as you can see what the future is for Vancouver, and it looks good, you throw Bo Horvat and JT Miller into that mix as well. It looks like Nils Höglander might just start the season tomorrow night on that second line. So there's another young kid breaking the Vancouver lineup. So you know what that team's going to look like. I just don't know, Lucky, whether, right now Vancouver's at that upper echelon of the North Division or somewhere towards the middle to they could make the playoffs and finish second place. And I think I'd look at it and go, well, yeah, they got Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes and power plays rocking, etc. And I could also look at it and say, you know what? They lost Jacob Markstrom, who you could make the argument over the past couple of seasons may have been the best goaltender in the NHL. And that's a really tough position to replace. So a lot of good pieces in Vancouver. I just don't know that the whole team is quite there yet.
And this could be a North Division that looks like, 1980s hockey by its score lines, given some of the scoring power that you have. You mentioned Elias Pettersson with, Bo Horvat up front. You got Kachuk and Gaudreau. You've got, McDavid and Draisaitl in Edmonton. Goaltending is a key in all of this, and Montreal might have the best pairing now with Carey Price and Jake Allen.
I think Jake Allen's, everyone's making a lot about what Marc Bergevin did in the offseason and, bringing in Tyler Toffoli, Josh Anderson comes in. He made some pretty big moves. Montreal was a team that finished in 24th place at the pause last year and found themselves still above the cut line to make it into the expanded playoffs, and they won a round against a really miserable Pittsburgh Penguins team that really played like they didn't want to be there. Then they flamed out against the Philadelphia Flyers. I really think that one of the sneaky good moves that Bergevin made was his first one, and that is making the move for Jake Allen. The thing about Carey Price is, if you look at him, like you look at his save percentage and all the underlying stats when he plays games that are too close together, he doesn't seem to fare well. Now you have a goaltender that can legitimately play a boatload of games and take some of that pressure off of Carey Price, who, when you look at, even just a boxcar number like save percentage, you say to yourself, well, he really hasn't had an elite season going back to 2016, 2017, lucky you figure. And a lot of that is because he shoulders most of the workload. And that's real tough, more so now for a goaltender than ever before. I think with Jake Allen there, it'll probably unlock what we all suspect still about Carey Price, that he is an elite level netminder. And I'm with you. Arrested Carey Price is scary for the rest of that division.
Yeah, he might become the my favorite backup Canadians goaltender since Andre Red Light Rasico.
You see, I'm a little bit older than you. I would have gone with Michelle Bunny Larocque, but that's good. We're different vintage.
True. And we didn't talk about the Jets so much, but they've got pretty good goaltending and a Vezina Trophy winner in Connor Hellebuck. And then the Ottawa Senators have a new goaltender too, and Matt Murray, who may see a lot of rubber.
He certainly will. Ottawa is interesting. I mean, Ottawa, you can see, DJ Smith, right? I mean, some of these moves, Lucky, like you look at some of the muscle that they've brought in, and like real rugged, like good Branson and Brown, like they've been and annoying hockey, Cedric Paquette's, like some really miserable guys to play against. Like we look at the Ottawa Senators and we say there's an accent on skill. There's, Josh Norris and Brady Tkachuk, who is a nasty bit of business himself too, but like Thomas Chabot, like there's a lot of high end skill. Tim Stützle that they've been able to bring in over the past couple of seasons. You look at the moves that Dorian made, and it's almost as if DJ's been, as you're saying, yeah, we like to flex a little bit here and make sure some of these kids have some room to skate out there. We know it's not going to be a great season point wise, but let's just make sure we get through the season and nobody gets injured. I don't want to say that Ottawa's going to be an elite team in this division, because they're not. I just don't think that Ottawa is going to be the easy 2 points that they've been the past couple of seasons. I think a lot of it is because of DJ Smith, who, of course, ex head coach of the Oshawa Generals, and his love of rugged hockey players.
Absolutely. Well, he was one himself. And
yes,
I don't want to go through every team in the NHL, but certainly, when we focus on the North Division with all the Canadian teams, and is there a division south of the border that you got your eye on? I would think this East Division just looks scary.
East is tough. And I know everyone thinks that the Boston Bruins have come back down to the pack. They lose Chara. You're playing with a banged up Brad Marchand and David Pasternak, and Patrice Bergeron is another season older. But I still think that Boston's a really good team. I mean, you could, Charlie McAvoy, should have been in the conversation for the Norris Trophy last season, and now that really is his blue line. Him and Matt Grzelcyk. I think Boston's going to be a tough out in that division. You have a Washington Capitals team that I still think is a real tough team to beat. Now the goaltenders are still inexperienced, but nonetheless, I still think there's a really good team there. I think the Rangers are a much improved team as well, but maybe the cream of the crop there. And look at the Islanders did last year as well. That East is tough, but the Philadelphia Flyers, man, like at every single position, they've got it. Like even if you just look down. Look down the middle. And we just saw Nolan Patrick come back. And if he can stay healthy, right down the middle, you've got Sean Couturier, Kevin Hayes. You have
Scott Laughton in there too. Yeah.
Scott Laughton, former Jenny, is now your fourth line center. You have Scott Laughton as your fourth line center. You're doing well. And then Nolan Patrick is your third line center. You go to the right side and you see like Travis Konechny. Oh, he's pretty good. Joel Farabee, who's been a find. He's excellent. And all of a sudden, Jacob Voracek finds himself on the third line. Like you have some significant depth. You have elite level defensemen and Ivan Provorov. Philip Myers has been found money for that team as well. Travis Sanheim is a real strong defender. And then you've got Carter Hart, who, for the longest time, what do we always say, Lucky? No matter what the Flyers do, all of it will be undone because they can't get the save. Well,
Yeah.
now they're getting the save. And Carter Hart's on the last year of his entry level deal. This guy's going to ring the bell, and don't be surprised if he's, in Vezina Trophy conversations sooner than later.
Finally, Jeff, I just want to ask you your thoughts on the fact that we're not bubbling necessarily with
Yep.
all Canadian division teams are playing in their own home rinks, but
Yep.
there's still no fans in the stands, and
Yep.
while the lore of buildings probably isn't there anymore because they're basically cookie cutter arenas for the most part. You don't have that Lambeau Field or that
Yeah.
that Madison Square Garden to go into that just is daunting when you walk into it. Is there a visitor's advantage for not having fans in the stands this year?
Perhaps because you don't have, the adrenaline of a power play. You don't have, the fans behind you. Now, mind you, I mean, you don't have fans yelling shoot, shoot, shoot at the most
Right.
inopportune times. And as an announcer, I know you probably roll your eyes every time you hear that on the power play. Like, that's the most low percentage position this guy's in, and you're screaming shoot, knock it off.
Probably one of the reasons that home power play stats are worse than visiting power play stats in most arenas.
That's an excellent point. You're absolutely right. It's I think probably the visitors may have a more of an advantage than they've had before. I mean, there's still a lot to make about last change for faceoffs and for line matchups, and coaches now more so than ever are hard line matchers. So I think that's still home team advantage, but probably because there aren't any fans in the building, it's more of a boost to the visitors because you can't build off any adrenaline or any emotion from the crowd. I think that's a good point. I think it's a fair one.
I certainly felt it most, I think, during the World Juniors when you're watching, Team Canada. You imagine that building, with the U.S. And any pressure on a goaltender. I mean, Spencer Knight's a fantastic goaltender, but when you've got 20,000 cheering, leering fans, just the energy was a vacuum in there. And
I just don't know I don't know anything was going to go in against Spencer Knight that day.
That's right.
Didn't you just feel like even that third period, Toronto or Canada threw like 20 pucks on him to like 3. Like, I know it's score effects and I understand all that, but still, I don't think anything was going in on Spencer Knight that night. That was just his.
Well, listen, Jeff, I can pick your brain on this all night long. We certainly appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, anytime.
No, you've got a really busy schedule up ahead, but hey, best of luck with the NHL season on Sportsnet. We will be watching because that's really all we can do now. But we would have been watching you anyway, and certainly if you hadn't had a chance yet, make sure you turn it in to Jeff and Elliot Freeman, the 31 Thoughts podcast. It is absolutely worth it.
Beats working for a living. Lucky, continued success. You're one of my favorites. You know that. And we get a hockey game at the end of the night now. Like at the end of everybody's miserable Groundhog Day type days, you finally get home. Now you can finally say, I get to watch a hockey game tonight and kind of forget about things for a couple of hours. Always a pleasure being on with you, pal. Buzz back anytime.
Thanks for doing this. Jeff Marek from Sportsnet.